Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today. We have got Bitcoin dropping to 112K before a little bounce back to 113. The potential hawkishness of Jackson Hole is starting to get priced in a little bit. We'll reflect in that direction a little bit more today. We've got Hines, former director of digital assets at the White House, joining Tether as a strategic advisor. That is a pretty big political move. Thought it was important to talk about that political side, given its increasing importance. And then finally, Wyoming state announces its own frontier stablecoin to become the first state to do so. I think that is very big news. We've also got the latest on general price action on crypto and NFTs as usual, plus a general discussion on where we think attention is flowing. So stay tuned for that. I've got Bread Guy in the co-host seat with me today. We're ready to get into it. But just a reminder, friends, before we do, nothing, absolutely 0% of what we say here is financial advice, because the market is very risky and we don't know anything for sure. So please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Bread, it is Wednesday. It is the 20th of August. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Those are true facts. Thank you for calling me in that way. I like to be associated with real and true things.
You're welcome.
Things are good. Yeah, we're getting going. I'm back to listening to macro pods, trying to see what's going on with the market. You know, trying to stay in tune. Also, simultaneously getting ready for my Breadio mint. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Someone mentioned this in the Telegram. Do you wanna tell us a little bit about this? Should I be sharing some visuals for this? Is this PG? Is this
it's pixel art? Yeah.
Is this appropriate for breakfast radio, which I think we are for most people in the world, or dinner time radio, or wherever people are in the world?
You know, we're a little bit of everything, right? Because I'm like midnight radio for me, so it's bedtime. People are sitting next to each other, snuggled up, and doing stuff. But like, yeah, it was just like the short and sweet of it is that like I got fucked around on MegaETH TestNet a few times. One with like a mint to try to see if people could mint 1 million of these, like whatever open editions I did. End up minting like 4 million of them. And then Tut, who is like he's an artist in the space. Like he's been on Abstract. He's got his own like artistic collection, and like he's around our age. So like he said like the Bread character that I've been messing around with, plus like me doing some of the butt pictures and stuff like that, it's been like he just finds it hilarious. So he's like, I kind of see it as like a muse for him, and he's like, I just want to create a bunch of shit around this like stupid Bread character. So he actually made a TestNet collection I don't know, a couple months ago. It was like little
What's his
buns
handle
or something.
on Twitter, before you carry on?
TUT.
That's what I thought, but it's not coming up. Oh, hang on.
Maybe it's underscore. Let me look it up real quick. Anyways, TUT ETH underscore.
Okay.
So Tut ETH. Anyways, so like he's like reaching out to me. He's like, all right, I made a tweet and I was like, look, my 4 million mint thing was kind of fun. It's like maybe I'll try to do something that's like a little extra for like everyone, just because like everyone had a good time doing it. He reached out and he's like, bro, I'm having a lot of time like playing with this Bread character. Let me like spin up a collection for you. Like you can do everything. I'll do everything. You can just like hang out. So we called and like had some conversations around expectations and whatever. And he's like our age, so we bonded over a lot of like 90s pixel art shit we had from our childhood, like Ocarina of Time was like the Zelda stuff we played, or like the Dr. Mario, shit like that, Pokemon. And as we were sitting there just like goofing around, he's a really cool guy. Like we just got along really well. Had a few calls like that, and he's just like, okay, I'll like we worked on a collection, and now like Legend of Breadio Lofarina of Time, like Ocarina of Time or whatever. Yeah, he's fucking around. So we just like, okay, let's make it fun. We'll like give people an excuse to go mint this thing on MegaETH TestNet. And then eventually migrate to mainnet, all free, of course. Like we don't want to do any expectation shit. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and it's a couple months in the making with him doing this stuff. So mints today, tomorrow. It's like there's like 6 waves. He went and like did all these collab things that like NFT minters do. So like got a bunch of communities and shit in there. If you're a Bad Buns holder, if you're a Fluffle holder, I have a lot of mints from Dalio. He's a big artist on on base. He did like the based frogs and shit. He's like the first on-chain artist for like basically every chain. He did it on Abstract, he did it on Blast, he did it on Base, he did it on whatever. That's how I actually found him. He's just a really creative on-chain artist guy. So like I made sure to get some of his buddies in there. But yeah, just a fun little collection.
That's pretty cool, man. It's a lot of effort. Always appreciate like high effort stuff, and especially you guys said it's on testnet. There's no like real money involved, just to kind of test out the MegaETH testnet and stuff. Looks pretty cool. Looks fun to get involved with, purely for the art, for the fun of it, for the love of, I guess, this kind of nostalgic bread art. Look at this like little gold loaf of bread.
Yeah, he has some really funny stuff. He's really creative. So like just like some of the stuff that he teased, and like I said, we like nods to a lot of stuff from like the 90s and early 2000s.
That's fun. Very, very fun. That's exciting. So if you guys are interested, obviously, if you're eligible even, there's a bunch of groups that might be eligible to mint this on testnet if you find it fun and interesting. Bad Buns, Fluffles are just a couple that Brad just mentioned. Pudgy Penguins, Little Pudgies. So yeah, there's a variety. Go check it out. The artist is, I just found the handle at tuteth_. So that's pretty cool. I like that. It's nice to hear like fun stuff, doing stuff for the fun. Because I guess the reason why I'm reflecting on it a little bit and enjoying that story a bit more is because when you get into this kind of market, I feel like there's more apprehension around. There's more like anxiety around of like trying to nail the right trade, right? To nail the right trade, make as much money as possible.
Are you feeling anxious right now? Are you?
No, not like I was. There was a period of time where I did, and then I kind of settled back into it. I needed to go through it to come back out of it. But yeah, I'm feeling fine now. But what about you?
Yeah,
Are you experiencing
no, I'm not. But like, because like I wasn't even aware we were in a major pullback until I started listening to some of those podcasts, and people are like, okay, guys, we're coming off the top. I'm starting to see some like the top is in, matriculation onto the timeline, like all this shit. Like, oh, that was it. We're done with everything. I don't think that's the case. I also didn't think that was the case last time. So like, grain of salt with whatever the fuck I say. I vividly remember GCR's tweet of like your all-time high net worth is gone. He's like accept this and then like deal with whatever. I was like, nah, he's wrong. And then like, yeah, that was my all-time high, and my shit bled out for the next 2-3 years. But like that was just to say that like as I've been listening to these podcasts, and like as I see the landscape, and as I hear that we're in a pullback, and I look at the charts and I see, yes, we're down a little bit. I still think we're doing well. We're positioned well for the next 6 months, and the general sense is that, especially with these treasury companies and everything else, like there's still some latent capital there to come bid, but like there are some signals going off, right? Like MNAVs are starting to come down, right? So you're starting to see a little bit of exhaustion in appetite on from like the TradFi our side. And as I hear people talk about it, like I'm reminded of the players that we're dealing with, right? Where we constantly make fun of TradFi for the returns that they expect and or are scared out of. And we're like, what are you talking about, bro? We're going for 100x here. And they're like, no, man, 15% in a month. Like, fuck yeah, I'm out. Right. And that's it. Which is like some stuff that they will see on a lot of this. Like if they went up 2x and they get pulled back 30%, like, all right, well, I'm done, because like objectively it's good relative to like everything else that we do. So
Agreed.
I need to be reminded of that. I need to stay keen on it. I haven't seen these MNAVs compress a little bit. I don't like that. But it also means that like there is underlying value to some of these stocks. And I want to stay aware of that, because at some point it'll probably get oversold. And then if it's going to pull back to 1, just like the GBTC trade did, it's a pretty easy, with size, 2x you can do. With like a 40% drawdown, maybe. I mentioned my Hype D thing. I still haven't been able to look into it, but like it's trading at 50% MNAV. If you think Hyperliquid is bullish and it's going to continue to go up even in this market, you're getting $2 of hype for $1 of that stock. So I need to really understand the intentions of that team and whether or not they're going to use mechanisms that would negatively impact my stock ownership to achieve higher MNAV?
I agree with everything that you just said. No qualification.
Cool.
I thought I'd leave it
Let's
open
do
for
it.
a second to think, oh, however, apart from one thing, but actually no qualification. Well, actually, can I add one thing?
Please.
I was going to leave it unqualified. So yes, so I think the Treasury company is the correct thing to be kind of zoning in on as a potential indicator of continual demand and seeing if those flows continue in that way. The MNAV being compressed is a major concern for some, and yet it could be a potential huge opportunity to monitor, to have capital ready to take advantage of only the best companies though. So this is why
Yes,
I think
correct.
in the next 7 to 14 days, you want to be looking into those companies. We want to be looking into those companies, and we'll share our learnings too, to figure out which of those companies are the ones where, if the inevitable trajectory is they're going to start to trade under, you just buy it in size because you are so confident it's going to do the 20-30% to get back to trading at par. So I agree with that. The only other thing is Jackson Hole and Powell and the Fed and rate cuts, which I guess is the macro kind of layered on top of
Knee deep
this,
for
which
that.
which we're going to talk about today. And I had been expressing a little bit of a bearish short-term sentiment because I thought we were just running on the basis that the rate cuts in September would be absolutely guaranteed, and that's how the market was just acting. And I think a lot of the communications have been far from that. And a lot of the data has been far from that. So I feel like this correction, whether it's got more to go or not, I don't know 100%. Obviously, Friday's speech from Powell will be incredibly important to determine the next move. But I feel like this is an acceptance from the market, with Bitcoin down to 112 and then just bouncing back to 113, that it's not as guaranteed as we thought it was. I think that's just what the market is saying, in my opinion. Yes, you've got the Treasury company stuff happening, and it feels like maybe they're slowing down a touch, but also maybe they're slowing down a touch because they want to know what the hell Powell is going to say on Friday as well. And Tom Lee's actually got a tweet on that, which we'll share in a little bit. So these two things are connected. We'll discuss them a little bit, but I feel like that bearish short-term sentiment I was expressing has been expressed in the market now. And now, for example, today I bought some Bitcoin because I'm starting to like it. It's a very short-term expression. I'm starting to like it at 110 and back down to 100, for example. If it were to go down, I don't know if it will, but starting to like it. Go on.
Do you like Ethereum?
Do I like Ethereum? Ethereum is literally the dream of Ethereum is my favorite dream in crypto.
I didn't ask that. I didn't ask, do you like
I know that's
Ethereum,
not
the
what you
asset?
asked. Do I like it here as an asset? I think it goes. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. Like, now that it's caught up in a way, now that it's put the move in that it's done, the time to say that you really like Ethereum was 3 weeks ago, right? And look, this is purely as a trader, purely as a trader. The time to have really liked it was before. Now I like it as much as anything else. But the thing is, I have turned more to Bitcoin in general. And actually, let me just explain one part of it. Maybe you want to talk a bit more about ETH.
Yeah, go.
But something that I've done on a portfolio side, which I think other people might find interesting. I know we're going on a little bit. We'll get to the headlines in a second. On the portfolio side, one of the key differences I've made or changes I made, this is like no longer than a month ago or something like that, is that I've made sure that my portfolio balance, like everything that I have, there is a column that tells me how much it's worth in Bitcoin. And so as I go through and change things over the different weeks, I can tell, okay, how the dollar number is changing, but I also can tell how the Bitcoin number is changing. And very recently, as recent as maybe 1 week ago, I noted there was a big jump in the Bitcoin number because of A, some altcoin trades, and B, I found a wallet that had loads of art in it, which I thought I'd lost. So that Bitcoin number changed a lot. And so one of the changes I'm making is because I can see that all the time, rather than just seeing a dollar number go up, I'm starting to think more like, okay, well, this was my portfolio value in Bitcoin before. X, Y, and Z has now happened. The Bitcoin portfolio value is now whatever percent higher. How much of that do I want to capture? Like right now, how much do I want to turn this portfolio into Bitcoin to capture the increased value in Bitcoin that the portfolio is now? And sometimes the value goes down, sometimes it goes up, but just seeing the number I found to be very, very helpful. As you can kind of see as a proportion of all your other assets as well. So that's my thought there, Brad. I don't know what your reflections are, whether you wanted to reflect on that. We'll bring back to ETH. Then I think Oxy's got something to share too.
Yeah, I would agree with you that like I'm a harsh technical critic. If people listen to this show for a while, you know that I have not been a big fan of the Bitcoin thesis, which I have undoubtedly warmed to over the last 6 months. Like I've increased my exposure a little bit through ETFs and some on-chain assets, but like it used to be just a flat zero because I didn't have a lot of confidence in it. As from a pure technical play, like that's where I derive my confidence from. I have, in my mind, you can't deny the wave that is gripping Bitcoin, like sentiment wise, and what people believe it fits narratively. And I'm just not going to fight that fight anymore. And I understand where they're coming from, and I think my technical concerns are not going to rear their head for many years. So I'm talking
I agree.
7 to 12, right? It's like when those conversations come up, and I'm fine with it as a trade the next 5. Like I think I'm dumb not to do that when I see everything else going on. So I'm fine with that. The Ethereum stuff is I'm trying to be reflective of our sentiment 6 months ago, right? I know I brought it up a couple times since then, like as this rally has happened, where it's like I don't like those concerns we had aren't gone, right? Like, and I acknowledge this wave that's happening. It is similar to the wave that happened with Bitcoin that I warmed to, and it's like it's something you can't really quantify, right? So Bitcoin is sovereignty, store of value, like it's all these things, fixed monetary policy, all this stuff that like none of it is really tangible, and you can't say this is worth X dollars, right? It's all kind of a nebulous thing that's just like you hold on to this thing because it's different than other things. It's digital gold, whatever, right? There's no revenue, there's no models you can run, there's no anything. It's just like this thing is valuable. Ethereum's trying to position itself in that same world, but I don't know how durable that narrative is for Ethereum, and I see this as a trade that is a short-term trade. I can't help myself but think that we're going to go back to the place that we were 6 months ago. I just don't know the time horizon for something like that, because I do not believe in this current narrative that is being spun up for it. Of that's just like it's the stablecoin chain, and it's just because like I feel like you can actually do direct calculations to say, oh, I want stablecoin exposure. I can do these things to get stablecoin exposure. That is not Ethereum, and it's just like it's only a matter of education, time, and how long that takes. So I'm looking for my opportunity to trade out of ETH soon-ish. I still think there's like another wave because like we have these treasury companies still doing their thing. We have Tom Lee, boasting $20 billion in buy pressure. I think there's still a little bit left in that tank. But I don't think there's like infinite legs in that. So I think the next one I'm going to try to get out.
Interesting. I think that's a well articulated position. I have read people who share that exact thing. I think I'm probably not too far off from you, to be honest. I'm not too far off from you there. I think
the thing that like people like the thing people are going to always like, there always has to be a number one coin, and people are going to peg it as like people hear this stuff and they're like, oh my God, you're bearish. Like the Ethereum's like going to go to zero. That doesn't mean it's going to go to zero. It can still be valuable. It's still one of the most valuable assets in the entire world, several $100 billion. Like it can still be all of that stuff and like just not be the multi-trillion dollar asset that everyone needs it to be in order for this thing to like triple, quadruple from here, right?
The only thing, and then I know exactly what you mean. The thing that makes me hesitant this cycle is kind of like the point we're making about the treasury companies, right? Where we said this the other day. I've got very familiar and very comfortable with analyzing VC unlocks and understanding who's in a coin and understanding the narrative, like when it's more crypto native and whether, you know, understanding who holds what and doing all this stuff over the last few years. You know, we're going into uncharted territory for myself personally, and maybe a lot of people here who've been in ETH specifically. And so when, you know, you have a very traditional fund manager picking up a narrative and running with it, I don't know how what is the general reception of that from other people? How are they going to take it? What kind of return are they looking for? As you just alluded to here, a 2x is nothing. We're going to hold for longer, maybe. There, if they're already up 2x, do they need to hold it? I'm just a bit less familiar with the stuff, and especially the mechanics too. And so I think there's a ton of research or learning we still need to do to feel more comfortable to speak on those specific directions, but at least articulating those pain points in a way is helpful. Oxy, your hand's been raised. I'm curious for your thoughts on this, whether it's a Bitcoin versus ETH contribution or anything on the portfolio conversation, maybe. What's your thoughts here before we hit the main stuff?
Yeah, so speaking to the portfolio tracking thing, I think this is funny because it makes me feel like 2021 again, but if you're bullish on the space long term, like what you're doing in your portfolio is exceptional, and everyone should be doing that. I know you and I specifically, I think Legendary and Bread too, track our portfolios very, very closely. But ultimately, if you're bullish long term, be tracking your underlying basis as well. Like track it against Bitcoin, but also be tracking against the underlying token, because a lot of people, they're like looking at their top line USD value and the price of everything's gone up. So you're like, oh, I'm killing it in these trades kind of thing. And you might not be killing it as well as you might think you are if your underlying goal, which if you're bullish long term, again, should be to just continue to stack the underlying token. So track that as well and make sure that you're either compounding into the tokens that you want to be holding long term, like a Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever it is. But like, I guess do a better job at tracking, because like I love Cerebro, or however you call it, but
Cerebro.
It does. Cerebro. I don't think it does an excellent job at tracking. Okay, how much ETH have you accumulated, or how much Bitcoin have you accumulated in these wallets? So doing that yourself and just kind of tracking that, I think, is super important. I guess speaking to the Bitcoin versus Ethereum side, I'm wondering your guys' thoughts. Like, do you not think that, like, I know you're talking like there's only going to be one like winner, or like, I guess one winner, quote unquote, for Bitcoin. I guess why wouldn't ETH be a good enough second to where it's worthwhile long term anyway? Or is it that you're trying to capitalize so much on the trade between Bitcoin and Ethereum that you're like, okay, I'm going to trade out of Ethereum into Bitcoin because it's going to outperform better short term? I guess long term, I'm thinking, I mean, any industry has a top five, competitors for the most part. So like, is it so wrong to kind of hedge against there being a top five and ETH being number two or what have you? Is it more so the actively trading side of things, or is it there's only going to be one winner in the long term, and that's Bitcoin? What are your guys' thoughts on that side?
I'll go first, then maybe Bread, and then we'll hit the headlines as usual after checking in with some of these comments on YouTube, which are interesting. I don't think there's only one winner. I think there's many winners, ETH being one of them, at least for now. And you're seeing other apps that are printing money for the first time as well. Hyperliquid and Pump are crypto native apps that are absolutely printing excellent tokens, whether they go up from this valuation or not. Like they're great businesses that are doing really well. So I think there are plenty of ways to invest your money in crypto and be successful. I think with Bitcoin it just depends what the purpose of your investment is. Like, I like having gold in this analogy, because the primary purpose of a portion of my portfolio is to protect my purchasing power. And I think, ETH is a bit more of a tech play. Solana is a bit more of a tech play. you have to bet on adoption and smart contracts and people doing stuff. And yeah, sure, if I would be with you that if all of the if ETH truly in practice becomes the stablecoin chain and the TVL of stablecoins really does keep driving there, and all future deep in stuff goes onto ETH, and like other crypto industries go onto ETH, or whether it goes to Solana or ETH or whatever, in whatever direction, then that specific chain will become markedly more valuable. But there's a proportion of my portfolio that I want to be playing that game. I want to be analyzing. That's why I went so far into Hyperliquid earlier this year. But there's a portion of my portfolio which like I actually don't want to be playing this game. I just want to protect my purchasing power, and that is what Bitcoin is to me. So to me, that's why the majority will keep going into Bitcoin rather than a tech play. But Brad, curious for your thoughts.
You know, after our previous conversations, I discovered that I'm actually pretty heavy stocks relative to like everyone here. I mean, a lot of that is just because of my like trajectory of how I got here. Like I had a lot of stuff that rolled through my previous career, and like a lot of that's just locked in like Roth IRAs and shit. So like I literally, I didn't want to like take the tax cut to pull it out of that to then inject it into crypto and do whatever. It's like, it has to be exposed to the stock market. And that's just mostly crypto stocks, but it is stocks, right? I'm confident that Coinbase is not going to like immediately go to zero. So like understanding that, I haven't felt a strong desire. Now I have pushed a little more of that towards Bitcoin through ETFs now that I have that ability to get exposure there, but I haven't felt a strong need to have Bitcoin on chain for that reason. It's like I have a very good nest egg in traditional equities that is relatively safe. I would say even has more upside than Bitcoin, just because of the way that it like how that stuff works. So yeah, like for portfolio construction and like whether or not I feel the need to have exposure to Bitcoin on chain, like that need hasn't really been there up to this point. And I think it's because of that reason. Like had I been like most of you MFers and had like 80% of my net worth on chain, then like, yeah, I could understand needing to have Bitcoin exposure on chain.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I get it. I think that's a helpful conversation. We've obviously gone way longer on just kind of portfolio construction and general debate on our holdings, but you know, every now and again, I think it's helpful to check in. I think some people in the comments finding that helpful. Quick question from Swizzy was, do you mean you're comparing your trades against Bitcoin, or just want to know how much Bitcoin your portfolio is worth in Bitcoin? It's the latter. Just being always aware of what your portfolio is worth in Bitcoin, so you can notice big moves. If you've suddenly made a lot in one, and then you'll see that Bitcoin number and you'll think, shit, I want to capture some of that. Because if you don't see it, then sometimes you just don't realize. So I find that helpful. Rune Lord saying this is a good point, but I simply track my portfolio against Bitcoin and crypto and SPX in TradFi to ensure it outperforms that personally. I think that is smart. I think just being aware of this stuff is what's important, and having the right data points. So good conversation. Appreciate that to start the show. We're obviously running a little bit behind. We've got the main news coming. Let's get you up to speed though with everything else you need to know before we kick it off. Starting with the price action as usual, we have Bitcoin down a couple of percent to 113, down 5% on the week. ETH is down a couple of percent as well to 4.2. XRP is down 4 to $2.90. BNB is down 1% to 833. BNB, shout out to BNB, the strongest of all of these majors. No one talks about it ever because don't like the Binance coin for whatever reason in the West, but it is the best. I'm not saying I don't, just clearly people don't. Performing exceptionally well. 2% down on the week when everything else is down much more. Solana's down 1% to $181. Hyperliquid is down almost 4% to 42. And Sui is down 4% to $3.50. Getting into the meme coin side of things, we've got Doge down 3, Pepe down 3, Pengu down 7, Trump down 2, Bonk down 4, SPX down 3. Pump just pumped touch back to 3 bill. FDV, Fartcoin's down 5, back at 88 cents. WIF is down 4. So mostly, if I'm looking at this generally, single digit down, Rect almost down 10% or so. That's experienced a decent pullback here as well. Getting into the headlines themselves, we have Bitcoin dropping to 112 before this bounce back to 113. The potential hawkishness at Jackson Hole starting to get priced in a little bit. That's what been speaking about the last few days. I'll reflect on some important tweets around that and discuss it in a bit. Bo Hines, former director of digital assets at the White House, joins Tether as a strategic advisor. I think, whether we like it or not, this industry is getting increasingly more political. And so being aware of these moves, I think, is very helpful. Wyoming state announces its own frontier stablecoin to become the first state to do so. Very interesting. I think that's very cool and headline worthy. Some notable sales: CryptoPunks still selling in that 50-something ETH region. Xcopy Grifter selling for 17 ETH, and this beautiful Chromie Squiggle pipe selling for 14 ETH. I like that one. I like it a lot. No buyers for my Squiggle yet, though. One of mine is on sale at the moment. It's a beautiful one. It's a very beautiful squiggle, if anyone is wondering. Web3 Roundup. Nakamoto announces a $679 million purchase of Bitcoin. Sharplink Gaming bought another $143,000 ETH, to push their holdings to over $3 billion. Plasma announces a partnership with Fluid, the most capital-efficient DEX for stablecoins. Anthony Scaramucci's Skybridge Capital announced they'll be tokenizing 2 of their funds, around $300 million, on Avalanche. I think that's a pretty big win for the AVAX ecosystem. Aura announces its first ever US Treasury perps with up to 100x leverage on Hyperliquid. I think there's going to be all kinds of interesting products coming on Hyperliquid. You saw the private, I know this is already on Solana as well, but the private stocks that you can start trading, I think that's come to Hyperliquid, but it is already on Solana too. Bitcoin DeFi protocol Lombard launches Bard community sale at 450 million valuation. On the social side, Monad captured CT attention yesterday with 5,000 Monad cards claimable for prominent CT members. What we'll do, if we are allowed to do so, in our Telegram community, myself, Legendary, and shout out to Oxy, who said that he would do the same. Brett, I don't know if you're doing anything with MegaETH for these, but we said for our nominations, we're going to raffle some in our Telegram community. For the people who we know, obviously, so they're all good people in there. But we're happy to kind of share our nominations for people who are in our Telegram community. And then finally, Cyberkong's announced a new token, Kong, to replace the old token Banana. It's kind of a funny headline. OpenSea adds feature to buy ETH NFTs in Sol, and Rec Drinks drop today with Base. I wonder if it's still the case that if you buy those cases of drinks, you end up with more Rect tokens than you do the cost.
Is there anything on chain with that? Like, is there a base claim or anything? It's just like, hey, we're releasing a base drink and you can buy it on our website.
Yeah, but you pay in crypto.
Okay, on base or
yeah, I'm certain that this one will be on base. Okay. I'm pretty sure the
I
one
ask
that on
as a
abstract
chain who's interested in maybe talking to these guys. Okay.
Yeah. So I think I'm pretty sure the abstract one was on abstract. The first one they ever did, I think, was on mainnet, but that was not. That was like their own one. I think they did one on Solana as well with Jupiter. So good stuff from them. Good luck to them. I'm sure that's going to sell out absolutely rapidly. Shout out to the Rect guys and Ovi and the crew. Before we get into the main stuff, Brad, as we said, we are running a little bit over today, but I'm just going to say one thing that I find interesting out of all of these details. Cyberkong's announcing new token Kong to replace old token Banana.
Beanie went after him a little bit. They were having a little back and forth.
So I don't know if you know the details here, because I don't. So actually, maybe I shouldn't speak out of turn, because I don't actually know the details. I should know the details before I say anything. I don't know if I take the headline for the headline, because I don't know the deeper details. Maybe I'm going to look it up while I'm speaking, frankly. But if I'm taking it from the headline, just at the headline's value, it feels like a very late stage thing. And we've got some other data coming up today about like late stage kind of cycle behavior, where people realize, I think in general, that time's running out. Time is running out. I think, I'm not saying we're at the end, but we're definitely not at the beginning, which is the point I've been making for a while. And so it feels like if you want to make a move, if you have any moves left to make, you need to make them now. And I think, I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure what a token changing for another token is like. What's the intention there? I don't know. I'm gonna read about it when I get your thoughts. But my initial just headline reaction is that it's a late stage move where people need to try to make something happen quickly towards the end of something, whilst there is still some opportunity left in the market. But I'm gonna have a quicker read because I don't want to be too critical without knowing.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Rock at it. I mean, so I also don't have a ton of information on it. I do know that I saw some back and forth where Beanie criticized them and just basically said like, hey, it's like, this is the problem with this space, is that you constantly have these teams which will sit there and basically like wipe the history and like try to consolidate everything into a new token. And then like, it's just a rerun of what they did the first time. So it's not really going to change anything. And then you had them clap back and like they, from the official count, they said like, you know, we're trying to do something that is, obviously they speak well of what they're doing, right? The intentions is that they're consolidating the ecosystem. It's structured better so that like it's more beneficial for the holders. It's more comprehensive, all that stuff. And then they gave away a beanie Kong as like a celebration of it. It's like they're trying to have fun with it. I will say like, just like in their favor, like whenever you launch a token, you know, it's pretty hard. It's like a stamp in time. It's hard to know exactly like what's going to become of your project and what the best construction is for your project. So like I can sympathize with teams that have done that and are having to revisit it and find new elegant ways to bridge from the old to the new. It's just not easy. It sucks. Like you want to avoid it if you can, but sometimes it's just better. Like banana associated to cyberkongs, like if you're looking for branding, like it just sucks, right? It'd be like Pingu or like Pudgy Penguins having like, you know, Igloo as their, Igloo's not horrible, but like, you know, fish, like the Rod. Like
Banana
Rod
sounded pretty
token,
good when
right?
it was earning people like $479
Yeah, I remember all
an
that.
hour in 2021, if you remember. Sounded great back then.
Yeah. Anytime someone posts something that's just like, oh my God, I got this much over the last 7 days. If you do this for a full year, I'm making multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like anytime I see that, I'm immediately like, all right, this thing is going to zero. Same thing that happened with like Farcaster and DGen. Same thing that happened with, there was another recent one that happened. But like, yeah, like anytime you start doing extrapolating over a year for like the last 7 days, like you're fucked. So there's that. And like, this isn't unique to NFT collections either, is what I'll say. Like you know, listening to podcasts for Pendle, where they're releasing their newest product, Boros, like a question came up where they're like, do you wish you would have done a different token model other than the VE token model for Pendle? And they're like, yeah, like it sucks. Like it's a lot. Like in retrospect, we probably wouldn't do that and we'll probably revisit it. And like, I want to say that for us here, because like if they are actually going to revisit that, like, and Pendle is a successful product, we need to make sure that we are front running that. That's simple news that like whenever everyone other people get information about that, they're going to pump the token. But that's like to come after like their immediate roadmap. So it looks like maybe you got some more information on this. So I'll let you get back to like what they're doing and why.
Yeah. Look, I'm with you there. It's hard to do things in the space. You're releasing new novel things. You're releasing NFT collections, trying to sustain a floor price, trying to maintain attention, trying to drop a token at the same time. It is hard to do things, and maybe sometimes things don't work out in the way that you want, and therefore you'd love the opportunity to redesign the tokenomics, maybe to fix it. Because definitely round one in 2021, I'm sure people made loads of mistakes. In fact, they did make loads of mistakes and have spent years trying to figure out how to correct them or deal with something that was basically screwed because of the original design. And it's very hard to fight back about that when something is structurally not correct. So just, you know, there's a reasonable explanation of what they're trying to do here. They redesigned the entire ecosystem to be more aligned with their roots of combining DeFi and NFTs. Kong will replace Banana, etc., etc. The thing that I'm just going to point this out without a deep analysis of it because I don't have the time to do it live and we want to get on to bigger things, is that, you know, there's this future distribution of 42%. 28% is for the banana conversion. So I guess there's going to be a lot more people in this token than the original set of banana holders. And people just got to figure out if this is an appropriate balance. Like there's clearly new sets of people coming into this token that were not the original holders. There's 4% for new investors, 4% for the team, 6% for a treasury, 2%
Yeah,
for
that's fucked up.
community.
If that, my immediate reaction to seeing that, like if that 42% makes up the 100% of the previous banana chart, it's just that this is a stock split, right? They get diluted to shit, right?
Yeah. So that's
stock split isn't even accurate, right? Because that's just a denomination change. Like there was a new issuance and like they get diluted to shit, right? This is not a stock split.
That's what it looks like on as a kind of headline.
And it's egregious if that's the case.
Takeaway.
Fucking wild.
Yeah, because it's a small it's a small share. The banana conversion.
Yeah.
At 28.2. Unless maybe 42%, if that a lot goes to the original people. Anyway, look, we've got bigger things to talk about. I think it's interesting to bring up because I'm always interested in these tokenomic things and just pointing it out to people that, you've got to keep an eye on.
I'm more interested in the games. The games is what's being played, right? What's the motivation for doing this? What does it mean for you as a holder? Those are the things that are not that I'm sure there's not actually a ton of holders here, but still, other people will play the same game, and you need to know what to look for.
Indeed, because we're moving into a period of time where maybe a lot of people will want to try and do something like this, right? So keep an eye out is our point. Look, we've got 12 minutes left of the show, and there are some important things to talk about. I'm going to do 5 minutes on Bitcoin and Jackson Hole again. Brett's going to do a few minutes on Hines, and then we'll hopefully try to touch on the Wyoming thing, but let's see if we get there. So the main headline today is obviously markets are red. Bitcoin's down. It went down to as low as 112. It then has kind of bounced back to around 113 here. I'm just going to share my screen for the people who are watching in, which increasingly is a lot of people live on X, live on YouTube as well. So Bitcoin's dipped down on the 7 days, down 7%. On 24 hours, just down a couple. In general, in kind of previous market dips, this is like nothing compared to pullbacks of previous years. I think the volatility in Bitcoin is definitely decreasing. But I guess the thinking that I've been sharing on the show very recently is of the kind of a short-term bearishness, because specifically everything to do with Jackson Hole and Powell and inflation coming in hot in the States, and how it felt like the market had just taken the idea that there would guaranteed 100% be rate cuts in September and was operating on that basis. And there was just a few data points and messages coming out that really was not giving you that slam dunk. And I think the market has basically just corrected to reflect some doubt. We've corrected down to 113 here. And Tom Lee actually shared this yesterday, kind of articulating a very similar perspective. He said, in conversations with institutional investors, more expect the Fed Chair Powell to lean hawkish. This is in expectation of the Jackson Hole speech on Friday, which he will be giving. So many people are expecting him to lean hawkish, as he does not want to be cornered to cut rates. But then Lee goes on, because this is the base case, probabilities favor his statement to be viewed as dovish, meaning stocks likely rally Friday post Jackson Hole. So let me unpick that, because I was thinking through that, trying to make sense of it. And I think this is the thinking. The thinking is markets are always forward looking. So at some point in time, the markets were looking forward to September, being like, we're going to get the cuts. So let's just rip this thing. Then they started looking forward and saying, well, I don't know anymore. So we have to correct down. I almost feel like getting the cuts that they want on Friday because this is part of where I saw some bearishness as well. Is like we'd run so hard on thinking that everything was going to be good that I thought it would be a sell the news event in the end anyway. I don't know if that's like too kind of over my skis, but like it's just people were everything has moved so much that I thought if it actually came and got the thing that you wanted, it would end up being a sell the news event. And so in that, if you think about it in the opposite direction, he can come out and be bearish in the short term or be hawkish and indicate that, you know, there may not be the cut in September. But if you think about it, we've already priced that in now. So him actually coming out and saying that he's hawkish on Friday will be bullish because that means that the market can start looking forward from there because we're already pricing that in now. So if he's actually to say that he's hawkish, then we can be slightly more positive to say, well, okay, well, you're hawkish like now, but at some point after you're going to have to not be. So I don't know. I feel like we keep going back and forth between these two things at the moment. I think that's the perspective that Tom Lee is sharing here. And then he went on to say after this final point, which is investors are on hold until Friday. And so as you know, one of the main things you were talking about with the Treasury companies beforehand was, you know, we've got to be monitoring those flows, got to be checking the MNAV and all these things. Everyone's frozen at the moment then because everyone is watching what's going to be said. So Tom Lee said investors on hold until Friday. All eyes are on Jackson Hole. That tweet is shared above. That was from yesterday afternoon. So that's kind of my perspective, a little summary of a couple of bits of details there. I think, I think we had to move down a little bit based on the hawkishness. But then at the same time, I bought some Bitcoin here. So I definitely readjusted my portfolio from some of the things that have run a lot, that have been running a lot, and that I've been saying routinely, like just sell often, sell all the time, sell little bits all the time. And I bought some Bitcoin with it today because I think we will move higher. We're closer to moving higher now, down at 112 than we were at 120 something, with no appreciation for the potential hawkishness of Powell. And I think the market might just be like a bit volatile, a bit nervous in and around Friday. I don't mind the idea of us moving up. I mean, obviously, I don't mind the idea.
Yeah, I think that's convenient. Yeah.
But I definitely.
I don't mind the idea of getting rich.
Yeah,
that sounds fun.
Sounds okay to me. Yeah. So anyway, those are my thoughts. What do you think, Brad? You said that this is one of the side of things that, maybe you're more familiar with the stock side, the treasury company side. How are you feeling about that macro picture that we just painted?
I mean, you painted a great picture. I, as someone who typically abstains from giving opinions on this level of macro, it sounded great. And like, I genuinely agree with like the trader psychology that we are experiencing now, right? Everything's forward looking. Okay, we started getting a little queasy. Therefore, we started selling off now in anticipation of the thing. But that means if we get the thing that we actually wanted, that we're questioning late, that means we can resume up only for a little bit, right? Until, because like all it becomes is like, okay, we don't have to think about this again until the next moment. And that could be next quarter, it could be next whatever, like whatever that big thing that the world agrees is like the thing to look towards. Maybe it's the next rate decision. Then like we just like go risk on until then, because like we don't have to think about it for a couple months or whatever the time duration is. So yeah, I no strong opinions because it's macro stuff, but you painted a good picture, and I think I agree with it psychologically.
Okay, sounds good. Definitely wanted to get into that a little bit, but as we said, all eyes on Friday. Basically, is part of the key conclusion here.
I have no positions that can get liquidated, so I don't give a shit. Is basically my position right now.
That's not bad. That's pretty good as well. I'm probably, to the extent that people are thinking about making moves, like I probably lean into the camp, as I already said, like of dips are for buying. I'm still in that kind of camp, at least on the majors, and maybe in some other things that you might like. That's probably my position. Well, it is, because that's what I did this morning. So, and then you just decide how much based on your portfolio. Getting some interesting comments here, Diablito. I have a lot of friends in Jackson Hole. Some probably be big money players. I know him through Polo. Summer season on there right now. Shout out to Diablito. Sent some awesome Polo pictures before. Let's get that Polo information, Diablito. Share.
Yeah,
You got
get
to
man on the ground shit. You know, one of the apps that we're trying to kick up on MegaETH is like an information market, because like that example right there, like he's got man on the ground with information, right? I bet one of those people have some information that's worth a lot of money. Like, what can we do to get that person to share that information, sell that information potentially to the rest of us, and like build up credibility, right? Like there's some asymmetry there that they can make money off. They can keep it anonymous, do that shit on chain.
We can watch Hyperliquid for the made moves before the speech, I guess. I think that's happened a couple of times as well. So we'll keep an eye out. Okay, that is that. Brad, second headline here. We just have a few minutes left, so speed run the core information on Tether, and then we'll touch on Wyoming as well.
Yeah, the headline is Hines, former director of digital assets at the White House, joins Tether as a strategic advisor. I'm honestly just going to pull a snippet out of this thing because it's the most succinct. So Hines, who was recently serving as executive director of the White House for Crypto Council under President Donald Trump, will start with immediate effect to directly engage and coordinate Tether's U.S. strategy and expansion as part of the group's core team. He originally joined Trump in January to lead his efforts, and then left last month and has fielded dozens of offers since then, and then ultimately decided on Tether. So it was a nice little trajectory for him. So it's 8 months of work to work for now the most profitable business in the world per employee, or on a by employee basis. Yeah, I'm sure there's a fat salary, and it makes me think of like, man, money is what matters. Money. Tether got, like, we're sitting here having these conversations around Circle and USDC, and having like an entrenched like US presence, and like how that is beneficial to them. And then you go, you're like, Tether hasn't been doing everything correctly. It doesn't fucking matter, because they made a shit ton of money, and now that they have a shit ton of money, they own the world, and like they can get people like this who has a bunch of connections, and they can actually speed run some of the things that we've talked about with Ethereum relative to other coins, which is just like the work hours and the man hours it takes to like build up bag bias and like all of these things in order to leverage the connections that those people have, and like how deeply rooted those people are in places of power to be able to get decisions made, to get like advantageous position relative to other competitors like a Solana or whatever. And then you have a Tether who is like in that same dynamic against Circle, where it's like, okay, Circle has done a lot of legal and regulatory work inside of the US to get favorable positions for a lot of stuff. And then you have Tether that just comes over the top, and they have so much goddamn money that it does not matter. They will just buy the best things, and they will then like, now they can like start to get their tendrils throughout the rest of the US political sphere. So it's just like, yeah, it just reminded me, it's like, man, money is very powerful.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's a really interesting point. I had not gone in the direction of thinking about Circle, because, as you say, that's always been the US coin, right?
That was the moat, right? Yeah,
that's at least how people have thought about it. And maybe the one key ramification here is Tether is going to be in the US. They've already made that clear. They want to play in the US. They're invited to all these things. Palo is there, and they've just got the person who is the most, who's like the right-hand man of David Sachs and the AI crypto policy segment to work for them. So I like that conclusion you're coming to there. Funky, your hand is raised. Give us a quick addition here on the Tether stuff, because I know you watch the stuff closely too.
Yeah, I actually responded to you this morning on the snapshot, because I said, could have seen that Hines news coming a mile away. And this is what Washington does. It produces these, and Brett did a great job, because it creates a carousel, right? Where you're going to have people who, like Bo, get in positions of power. They will have incredible influence on the industry. They leave to the private sector. They're going to earn a fat payday. They'll probably do that for a little bit. I would not be surprised to see Mr. Hines come back in some political way in the future, whether that's running for office, whether that's getting another high position of power within the industry. And this could be a couple years out, but this is what Washington does. It creates churn by putting people in power into positions of authority in major companies, and then they come back, and they're not supposed to, right? Like, but this is what happens. They become lobbyists, and then they go off and they come back and run for office. It's just how Washington works. Gross.
Yeah, good stuff. Appreciate the additional insight, Funk. Yeah, the revolving door is real, and I don't think there's a way to actually stop it, to be honest. So that's the reality. Final headline of the day is the Wyoming state debuts US dollar stablecoin on 7 blockchains. The Frontier stablecoin has been deployed on Arbitrum, Avalanche, Base, Ethereum, Optimism, Polygon, and Solana. It's pretty cool. Wyoming's launched the Frontier stablecoin, first fully reserved stablecoin issued by a public entity in the US. The token will be available for the broader public in the coming days on the Solana network via Kraken and crypto card platform Rain on Avalanche. The debut follows the US enacting federal guidelines for stablecoin issuance under the Genius Act. Shout out to Wyoming, who...
What's the ticker?
The ticker is FRNT, Frontier Stablecoin.
Not a good ticker.
So it's a little bit of a mouthful. I don't know how you're really going to go and buy yourself some front. Getting yourself some front might be.
Dude, it's a stable coin. You have to have some USD in there. Like, bro, like that's follow the convention of the industry, right? If I don't know that's a stable coin, right? I'm gonna think if I see that, I'm gonna think it's either some shit coin or some like algorithmic implementation of a stable coin, right? Like,
yeah, you're probably right.
Not great.
You got to have USD in there, like a WUSD, right?
FUSD or Wyoming USD, yeah, like something. Even WYUSD, that'd be kind of fun. YUSD you can play on.
Yeah, that would be good. I think Wyoming, they also the state which has the significant pensions holdings, I think, in Bitcoin. They've always been like early to this stuff, always been keen to get involved. I think you need to double check that. I think it's the pension side.
I think DAOs were also like incorporating there because like that was the most regulatorily friendly state to do so.
Indeed. So yeah, always on the edge here. So
on the frontier, you might say.
On the edge, yeah, on the frontier, of course. That is.
They should name a stablecoin after that.
Perfect way to stop. There we go. That's the end of the show. We can't top that, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour live on X Video, YouTube, and you can catch us on Apple and Spotify podcasts too. Thank you to my co-host Brad. Thank you to Funky and Oxy for their contributions. Thank you to all of the YouTube commentors, the other commentors, listeners all over the place. Thanks to Diablito, who I believe will be getting someone from the Coca-Cola family on the show, according to his Apollo connection. So looking forward to that. Have a wonderful day. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.